we have seen over the course of the last year in particular, we are starting to see that the dynamic of fatherhood in Black America is vastly different than what it has been portrayed. That we still, even if not with the mother, have involvement with our children in far greater numbers than is depicted in media. That being said, though, we still have a lot of brothers who are not holding up their end. And I think it's important that those of us who take fatherhood seriously and understand the importance, we always talk about mothering and what that does to children. But having a strong father in your life, male or female, really is important. So for those of us who are here that haven't necessarily had strong relationships with your fathers, we want to talk a little bit about that. For those of you who do not have children yet, we want to talk about the expectation of fatherhood and what you owe not only to your family, but our community. We want to talk about that. We just want to get into it. So again, we'll be coming to you guys in just a few. Let me introduce to my left immediately is Sheldon Smith, Executive Director and Founder of the Dovetail Project. We'll have him tell us a little bit about that. And then Nathan Williams, co-founder, Young Dad Network, co-facilitator of Sons to Fathers. Welcome them both, please. Sheldon, what is a synopsis of what the group, the organization does?
So the Dovetail Project was founded in 2009, and so our goal with the agency is to work with young African American fathers between the ages of 17 and 24. We recruit fathers throughout the entire city of Chicago and teach them parenting skills, life skills, and felony street law. When the fathers complete the program, they receive a job, a GED, or a trade, along with a $450 stipend. So we've been in existence now for 10 years, and we are a citywide initiative. We've impacted over 450 young fathers throughout our 10-year span.
Tell us about you.
So the Son to a Father is basically the story of my upbringing, my father's upbringing, and how he took fatherhood pretty much to the next level with the father outside of his home. My father is, he's my number one icon, as you would say. He definitely, he impacted our community in Grand Rapids, Michigan by taking in youth in foster care. And we ended up taking in about 7 to 8 guys over time, not necessarily right away. And we share that story to churches, to schools, to parents, to help them, basically to help people recruit and get foster parents of color to be able to get kids that are in foster care in from color. And basically, we're just trying to help Black fatherhood be seen and debunk this myth that Black fathers are not part of their children's lives.
There was some research done, published in the New York Times, early this year, late last year, that talked about the idea that it found in this research that Black fathers actually have more impact and facilitate relationships in a greater number than other ethnic groups. And no one would believe that if you just watch the depiction of Black manhood and Black fatherhood that's given through the media. I keep talking about the media because I want you all to think about this. If you were to ask someone who is the most dangerous male in America, they would tell you the Black male. But I want you to think about what we have seen over the course of the last 6 months. It's not the Black male. It's a 20-year-old, 20-something-year-old white male who's decided that I'm going to just shoot up everybody. Yet, it's not an indictment on all white men. So what we have to start doing is, as Isaiah said, changing our narrative, making sure that the truth is told about who we are and what we do, and really start to uplift organizations like you all. He talked about his relationship with his father. Give me a little bit about your relationship with yours.
That's an excellent question. As a young boy, I grew up with my father in and out of my life. And with him being in and out of my life, he was a teen parent. Him and my mother had me at the age of 18. And so with my father being in and out of my life, I grew up a community organizer. And in me doing community organizing, I really wanted to, at the age of 21, shift what I was doing and really focus in. But my father was in and out of jail. He grew up a hidden child. His father was in and out of his life. And he did the best that he could do. But with him being in and out of my life, I really wanted to address the work. And with my parents being teen parents, I really wanted to be able to address the work and really build the organization around the things he lacked, which is parenting skills, life skills, and him being in and out of jail, which is not a street.
I want you guys, particularly those of you who are not fathers yet, this, some young brothers, I'm assuming that many of you aren't fathers yet. I want you all to think about some of the reasons that men are not in our lives and in our homes. And part of that, let's be honest, there is a sense of manhood. They now call it toxic manhood. There's a sense of manhood we all grew up with, right? And it's still very real. Nobody wants to be a punk. Nobody wants to be looked at in a certain light. But you also want to be looked at, particularly when you have your family, and I know some women won't like this, but men still feel this way, whether we don't admit it in public or not. You want to be the head of your household. You want to be able to walk in and make those people in your home feel safe, feel comfortable. You want to provide for them. And often, because of the way the world treats us, we run from that because we can't always facilitate the needs that we say fatherhood should be. The reality is the weakness is running. We think it's strong to get away and somehow live your life on your own, if you will, but that's the weak side. The strength is staying, bucking up, and making sure that we take care of our families. And listen, I have lived it. It's difficult. My father died when I was 11, suddenly. But I had a mentor who I could model, who lived a house away from me. I'm 59 years old. To this day, if I have an important decision to make, I call him. And it really is about finding, whether it's blood or not, role models for yourself to say, this is who I want to be, this is how I want to tackle responsibility and issues and problems. Talk to us about what you see, both of you, and what you hear brothers say for reasons either being there or not.
Well, I would tell you with the Dovetail Project, 95% of the young men that we serve, fathers, are not involved in their life. And so you have a group of young men who are coming together every week, once a week, to really get the tools and skills that they need to be effective. And when we ask them, how did you learn how to be a man, or how did you learn how to be a father, it's TV, my mother, the neighbor, different things of that nature. But we call our young men Mythbusters because this is a volunteer-based initiative. They're showing up on time. They are there to learn and pick up the tools and skills that they need. And so a lot of the reasons why our young men are struggling, particularly young African-American men are struggling, is because a lot of them have grown up with their fathers being in and out of their lives. They are behind the eight ball, but they're looking for a way to transition their lives into the next place.
That's exactly the same. I have exactly the same answer. 100% of the time, well, not even 100% of the time, but most of the time, guys that are coming in, especially with the young dad network, they're struggling with small excuses. I'll just put it, be real and be honest with the excuses of the mom not letting them be a part of the child's life, not letting them.
That's the easy out.
It's an easy out. And I'm a father right now, and my son actually lives in Florida. I live in Grand Rapids, and I make the trip to come see him. I talk to him over FaceTime. I make the phone calls because I know how important it is to be present no matter how far you are. You have to make that battle. Sometimes it is a battle between mom and dad, but that cannot be the reason why you're not in the midst of trying to raise your child.
What are we missing as black men for those, and listen, I want to stay on this side of the coin as opposed to the other side, because the men that are doing the right thing are doing the right thing. So we don't really need to talk to them other than keep it up, brother. That's all we need. It's the brothers that are not doing the right thing. And we have to get away from this sense of beating them up. Because it's not beating them up as much as it is saying to ourselves, this is our expectation as a community. And as black black men, this is our expectation of manhood. We've allowed others to tell us what manhood is for us, as opposed to us saying, no, Negro, that is not manhood. So I clean that up a little bit. This is manhood. So give me a sense of what we need to start doing, because we've been tripping over this rock for a long time now.
Well, I mean, I want to walk that line carefully, because let's talk about a place like Chicago. You have a community like Inglewood where youth 17 to 24, the unemployment rate is 82%. The Dovetail Project just finished a study with the University of Chicago. What we learned is that 63% of the young men that we serve don't have a high school diploma or GED. 100% of the young men that we serve make less than $1,500 a year. Right? So, right. Less than $1,500 a year.
Right, let's say that again, not 15,000.
No.
1,500.
Less than $1,500 a year. What else we've learned through our data that we've had an opportunity to take a look at is that 60% of them witness more violence than they are a part of, right? And so you're looking at violence in a place like Chicago, right? Segregation, unemployment, a lack of resources. You know, you have a school system that's graduating 6% African American men, so that means 94% dropout rate for African American men in Chicago public schools. And so these are the numbers that we're not speaking about and talking about, right? And so for us as an agency, we look up. Now we're on the ground across the city doing recruitment, and the first time since 8th grade that their mother has seen them in the cap and gown completing something is at our graduation. And so, you know, with our brothers, the thing for us at our agency that we can't replicate, and it's hard to come by, the Eds, the Sheldons, the Nathan, it's hard to come by brothers who understand that can push these young brothers, right? Because you have brothers that are doing great, and then they try to speak to them about what greatness is, but they're not at that level. They're looking for someone who can see at the ground level what they need, right? And then help push them. And so, you know, as I think about what our brothers need, it's not just a conversation, but systematically and policy-wise, some things need to change in order for us to be able to do more of the other things that we need to, without making excuses for brothers.
So agreed, but that being said, we do make excuses. And we've been doing it for too long, because systematically, we all get crapped on,
right,
across the board. So I'm with you 100% in everything you said, except we have to start talking to young brothers and say, dude, you making 1,500.
Right.
If you laying with her and y'all have a baby, you really in trouble. Okay. If your raggedy butt gonna be out there with 1,500. And I understand the psychological trauma that we deal with as black men, particularly again, if the system is keeping you down.
Right.
But if we only allow that to be the escape route, as we talked about, we're going to be in this same cycle.
Well, I don't want to say, I don't want to just say it's, you know, the system piece. So I'll give you a perfect example. Earlier today, I was speaking to some young brothers, and I explained to them that I had my daughter at the age of 21. But the reason why I had my daughter at the age of 21 is because I thought I was going to be dead. I didn't think I would live to see 23. And so when you have a young brother who grandmother who raised him, his daddy not there, his mother not there, he went through the system, he bumped his head up against the wall with the criminal justice system, he think his life is going to be short the way that it is. He started making short-term decisions. And so, you know, it's easy, I think it's easy for us to come out and say, man, young brother, you a young father, you just had that baby, you know you're only getting 1,500, just what you need to do.
I got to get to it before he has it.
Well,
that's the important.
So I love that, but the real thing is who's talking to him.
I agree.
That's
the problem. Nobody's talking.
Nobody's talking. Nobody's training. Nobody's teaching. And so you have a young brother who, the first time somebody ever engaged him about fatherhood, he's 23, and he ended up in the Dovetail Project, right? And so, you know, again, deadbeat daddies are deadbeat daddies. Period. There's no excuse. But I'm speaking about the brothers that come through our program, and they hungry.
So what I'm saying to all of us who are sitting in this room, and the reason I talking about it and not letting that cycle continue is, if you don't leave here and talk to somebody So you young fellas who are in here now, right? You got partners who didn't come to this, don't really want to be here, wouldn't think about anything, but y'all kicking it. You need to, and I know sometimes it's like you can't tell a grown man what to do, but you are the people, you're the vessels for them. And you need to share some of this knowledge, because when you get caught up, and you're young, you get caught up, and by the grace of God for you at 21, you obviously had a support system that helped you along and got you. A lot of cats don't have a support system. It starts to affect that child as well.
And I think the biggest thing is what we don't have enough of is black mentoring, like you're saying. And it starts with trust and rapport. I think a lot of times we, as black men, we like to come in and we like to say, this is what it is. We try to base our experiences and give it to the young guy. You know, I've had that myself. Older men, they told me that I've done wrong, and they didn't actually connect with the reason and give me the step-by-step, hey, this is what you need to do here. They actually cared about my situation. They actually wanted to see my success. They actually wanted to see me grow. And that's important for men, for young men, 19, that just had a kid, don't know what to do. Can't feed himself, let alone feed his kid. And to have like an Ed Gordon come in, to have any leader, a black man come in and speak to you and say, hey, I got your back. This is what I want you, these are the things I want to see from you. And have some goals, or have some goal-oriented speaks and talks. I think that's the number one thing that black men are missing, because we don't have, like you said, we don't have a lot of fathers. A lot of guys are fatherless, trying to father kids.
And it's got to be real conversation, to your point, because I'm not going to be in a room full of 19 and 20-year-old brothers and say, don't have sex.
Right.
I ain't saying that. Because I know now you done shut me off like this Negro crazy. Right? And I'd be hypocritical. Because I didn't know my wife did. But when I was 19, that's all I was driving around for, right? So let's be real about where we sit. So it's not about having a conversation with it, which is unreal.
Right.
But it really is about, okay, money. If you're going to do this, let's talk about what let's talk about the consequences and the expectation. Because again, back in the day, like Isaiah was saying, there were certain expectations of us. Some of them were right and some of them were wrong, right? So the expectation, just because you had a child with this woman, you got to marry her or try to make, well, that wasn't always the best thing, right? And then we would send girls down. I lived in Detroit. We'd send girls down south. They'd go have a baby there and come back, and all of a sudden, this house had a new baby. Now, mama was about 60 years old. You know what her baby was like, where did this baby come from? So there were things we did back in the day that weren't always right. But there was still a sense of responsibility and parenting that was of import to us. And so I think we have to start to find a happy medium. What I'm going to ask, are we doing a roving mic for questions? Okay. So what we're going to do as we continue our discussion, and listen, if you have any questions, please, particularly you young fellas, and if you aren't fathers, now is a great time to open some of this dialogue, and you may get some wisdom. And sometimes you may get something to say, no, I'm not going to take that fully, but some of that works for me. Because to your point, not every bit of advice, and this is what I try to get to, because I've got my daughter and our sons and a group that I've helped raise, and I tell them all the time, everything I'm telling you is not going to be right. And some of that is going to be just wrong. But I'm doing the best you can, or the best I can, and sometimes it sparks something for you that you can mold for yourself.
Well, I think oftentimes we talk about the young brothers, but who we don't talk about is their fathers. The guys who glorify gangbanging, selling drugs, and everything else, right? And so,
the anger they have for them that they're not around. I've seen
the things we've been left with as young black men to fend for ourselves. And so you can ride around our communities, particularly a place like Chicago, and run and look at the older black brother population, your 40 and 50 and 60-year-old brothers, and you some of the brothers you would say, I don't want to be like that, right? And so, it's not just, I don't want to just say, the young brother thing. I really want to say it's a man.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's been broken across the board. And right now, even for me as a 30-year-old African-American man with a fatherhood initiative to impact these young brothers, oftentimes when my young fathers calling me at 1 or 2 in the morning with different things that they need, they're not calling their father, they're calling me. And so I really just want to throw that part out.
Absolutely. It's not about teenagers at all. It is about black men in general. And again, we want to say that the responsibility is to our community, not just yourself, not just your household. But as Eddie Levert said last night, again, going back to some of these old school values that we've let slip away, there was something to making your name and your family's name proud and keeping it up there. There was this sense of, no, you're not just representing yourself, you're representing your family, and then by extension, you're representing all of us. Because you think about this. If you are out somewhere, right, and you see some crazy Negro running around acting a fool, it is that moment of, oh, Jesus Christ. You don't know that dude. And he shouldn't represent you in that sense, but he does.
That's right.
Right? And so this is what we've got to get to, that the representation of what this spawns for our community impacts all of us. I did Steve Harvey's mentoring camp a number of years, and the anger that a lot of these brothers held for their fathers, who weren't there, who dogged their mothers, who, and I mean, it built and built these kids and these young men, and then it just explodes sometimes in rage. It's displaced rage, but it's there.
So I was at Rumble Young Man Rumble in Louisville with Brother Sean Dove, and at the end we all made a big circle, and the question was, what affects you? What's still affecting you today? And everybody went around the room and he said something. And then he got to his older brother, he was about 57 years old, he was crying. Sean, he cried. He cried. And he said, man, my father not being there still affect me. And so one of the things I learned at that time as a young brother in this field is that no matter what age you are, what skin color you are,
That's right.
what degrees you have, how much money you make, if that issue will affect you no matter what, right? And so for me to see that brother saying it at 57, he could have been saying like, man, what happened and left, I did it, but he still felt the pain.
All right, we're going to take some questions. I'm going to need you when you say 57, since I'm 59, just to say he's 57. I thought it's old. He's 57. Look, I'm still.
Watch spouse.
Right.
You a good 60.
59.
Hello, everyone. And one of the things I wanted to ask is, Isaiah and I were contacting each other in Chicago, both from Chicago on the south side, he was saying west side. But growing up in Chicago, again, I live in Austin, Texas now. But one of the things in our men's ministry at church, we talk about getting the young men in the church. And that's one thing we don't see anymore. And that's our challenge as we try to get the boys and the men in church and making sure they put God first to help us build that community first again. And I go back to Chicago again, I find some of my old friends and find them and we talk about, what got me out, what got me away from the gangs and things of that nature. And when I found God, that definitely took me in the right direction. So I want to ask, what are we saying to the kids about putting God first in our conversations?
That's an excellent question. Praise the Lord. Before I make this comment. Because I want to be truthful to you all, which is a lot of young brothers, it's hard for them to believe in God when they feel like they're going through hell. Right? It's hard for a young brother to believe in God when you got older brothers that play with God, that they dress up. I'm a deacon in the church. Let me pray for you, right? And it's being looked at as a money thing. And so young brothers really step away from that because they have not gotten to that place where life is comfortable for them and they can really pay attention to the the Lord. What they're really paying attention to every day is to make sure that they can live hour to hour, day to day, to get to the next day. But God and faith is not first to them, because if they, because and what I've heard them say, this is not me, this is them. If God existed and faith is there, then why am I in your program? Sure. Why am I getting less than $1,500 a year? And so I grew up in the church. Like, I grew up sleeping in the church bathroom because I didn't want to give them to the choir, right? So, yeah. So, but my point behind that is if your roots don't start at that level with God as you rise, the other ways you meet God, I met God when I went to jail. You meet God when you're in trouble. Right? Them the other times you meeting God and running to God and begging for the Lord and want him to come through for you when you're in trouble. But when you're not in trouble, you're having a good day, man, God, man, I don't want to talk about that. That's religion, right? And so, I think it's growth and development for a lot of our young brothers when it comes to spiritual, if that makes sense.
And also, I think to get young black men into the church, the men that are going to reach out to them, they have to not only live what they believe, but they also have to engage with them in a way that they can build some trust, that they can build some type of rapport and learn from them. You have, I know as a young man, sometimes I just didn't go to church because it wasn't because of God, it was because of people in the church. It wasn't necessarily because of the Bible or any of the things that I could learn on my own, but it was more like me and the pastor didn't vibe well, me and the people in the church didn't vibe well, and I just needed somebody that could, take my hand and show me the way, personally, to actually be there for me and mentor me in a way in which I can actually learn about God the right way. And I think sometimes we get into this thing where, yes, I'm a young black man, and a mentor is also a black man, and just because we're black, they believe that I should listen to them. Instead of actually being like, hey, building a connection and a relationship that we can both learn from and both grow from. And I think that's the number one thing. I don't think that young black men are afraid. I think that they're more open than anyone to have a mentor. But I think mentors have to come across as someone that can be trusted, number one.
I also think when we talk about church, two things. I think the church is a bit hypocritical, expecting men to rush through those doors as opposed to going out to those doors. We got to start doing that in a way we used to, but we don't anymore. And as someone who was not a heavy churchgoer, but a believer from day one, I do think there is a nature, particularly for young black boys who in the 50s, 60s, 70s often went with their mothers. Even the relationship, we don't like to talk about this either, because it's uncomfortable. The relationship between boys and mothers has changed, where it used to be your mother would say, well, you going to church and you go. Now you see a lot of us, Mom, I ain't going to church, and that's it. And he says, so there are a number of things that we've got to get to, and I go back to what Isaiah said, and I've been doing these panels for decades now, right? Some of them I don't even do anymore. Because my thing is, we're just talking. We're just talking. That's why I say to you, young men, trumpet what you hear at this conference. A couple of your boys ain't going to listen no matter what. Right? Okay, cool. That's y'all. But the 2 or 3 that will listen, just say, hey, man, I went to this conference. This is what I learned. You should go next year, blah, 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 blah. You don't write anybody off fully. But I had a couple of boys, I'm like, I ain't telling these Negroes at all. Nothing. Because they're not listening, and I knew that. You throw a little pearl of wisdom here or there, but you knew the ones that you could bring along. Brother, did you have a question? Yeah. Right here in the front, then we'll go in the back. No, come on up.
My name is Dario Vasquez. So I'm working with young fellows between the ages of 13 and 22.
Hey, she gonna bring that mic to you.
One of the things...
Can you go out? Okay. No, you can't have the mic. You can't have the mic. Never get that mic out. You gonna start singing. Okay, you still not touch that mic.
I'm sorry. I'm feeling the, I feel MC. So I was saying I work with young men 13, 22, and I see a range of different emotions. So I had a question, had to do with something that was mentioned on the panel. One of the things that a lot of the guys that I work with struggle with is that pain and that resentment, and not necessarily ever, finding productive, safe spaces to work through it, right? And it's one thing when you're working with a high schooler, and having these conversations, but you got cats in college who are just like, well, I made it this far without them, right? But at the same time, it's still eating away at that. Right? And to my man's point, it's like they're not calling their fathers who are absent. They're calling guys like me who are their mentors in these certain positions to have some crucial conversations with them. And I'm just like, there's some conversations I don't know how to necessarily have myself, and so I pose that question out to the panel, hopefully maybe we can just foster a productive conversation about how do we have conversations around healing, because some brothers are like, look man, I understand, my dad might have been in a position where he couldn't take care of me, I understand, I forgive, it's all good, but a lot of the young cats I work with are really, really harboring this pain, and I see the range because I work across the board, I see the range, high school, college. How do we foster those types of conversations as well?
I will tell you, when I took a look at my life, my mother had her first child at 14 and her last one at 21. And so when I took a look at my life, she lost her brothers and sisters in a fire, the thing that brought everything to life to me is that I was doing community organizing. I was involved in learning about social and emotional, learning and behavior and all of those things. So it was easier for me to break it down, right? And so, but oftentimes, family members can't break it down like we sit here breaking it down. Like, this is why mama did this and did like that and did this, right? And so, oftentimes, when these conversations come up in the midst of the household, everybody just like, he gonna deal with it, he gonna get past it, he'll get over it, but for the rest of his life it's bothering until he get involved, with us. And so I think for me, I was able to start having great conversations with brothers because of being in the field and then being able to learn the scientific methods behind what an individual is coming up with. But the thing that I challenge adults with all the time, and this was my father's problem, which was he said, I'm a grown man. I don't have to tell you what went on in my life. You my son. I don't explain myself to my son. But it wasn't until he told me his story that I forgave him. When I heard his story, I did my TED talk on this. When I heard his story, this is when I forgave him because I didn't know he went through these things. But oftentimes in our household, we as adults tell the kids, you won't get over it, we ain't gonna, and so we gotta break that, particularly in the African American community. We really need to be having these conversations internally in-house, why things go the way that they go, why they are the way that they are, but it takes for the adults, and that's why I brought that up earlier, is because a lot of them have embarrassment of the things that they did before you was old.
And it's real.
And it's real, right? Your mama don't want to tell you this, your dad don't want to tell you that, but you ended up without him being it. So it's these conversations that you need to have in order for you to take off and get to the next level. For many years, I cried. Many years, I would look at the movie Antoine Fisher and cry about that boy inside of me because he was never fixed. But it wasn't until, man, I'm helping brothers and I'm broken. I didn't really get over this thing until I was 28, 29, I'm just 30. And so oftentimes, you just push on through, but it's not healthy. But that's how we raise each other within our communities. And we gotta break that.
I also think with you being a mentor, you're just gonna have to dig deep and have to ask them the questions and being transparent, asking them what they actually feel, how they feel about the situation, and try to help them as best as you can. I know for me right now, I work at a residential treatment facility where kids have neither parent. And it's just, it's a hard job because there's so much trauma, so much stuff behind their behaviors that they have that I have to really dig deep and ask them very specific questions to help them get through the trauma that they're going through.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
And it's tough because it's an emotional job. And as black men, we don't really deal with our emotions. Like, it's a tough thing to deal with because we don't have models of that. just maybe sometimes sharing your feelings about how you felt if you were fathers or your parents were going through a certain thing, may help a child be like, okay, this is my mentor, he went through something similar to me, and he got through it, and he's successful. And you know, if you embody that and you continue to care for the children like how obviously you do, you'll see kids start to grow and thrive in all different types of things.
And sometimes it's about you finding the person that has the answer, if you don't. So that child may not be able to find them, but you can find them. I had the good fortune of, I don't want to oversell it, but mentoring Tupac a little bit. And what he said to me when I met him the first time we did an interview is he said, man, you know, he talked about not having his father in his life and not having good role models. And he said to me, Ed, you know, you're not really old enough to be my father, but you know, you could be like a big brother and you kind of get what life is about. And I like your perspective. Sometimes it's finding that person you connect with. And his mother, God rest her soul, before she passed away on a radio show we were doing, thanked me because she said, Ed, he never really met anybody like you. He liked you, and he had somebody that he could reach to. So it's about all of us finding people that we connect with and not feeling vulnerable. My wife will tell you, I am that dude, right? I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want to feel like, you know, I don't have it. I don't want to feel like, you know, I can't figure this out. And sometimes you fail in living in that moment, as opposed to going, shit, I am drowning and I need a boat. You got a boat. You know, I was gulping water. And she's like, could you get on the boat, please? And she tried to get out of here now because it's hurricane, but we'll be all right.
So this question goes to Nathan. Nathan, you mentioned you had a daughter, right? And son. In Florida?
Yep.
And where are you located at? So where are you located at?
I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Okay. So that has to be hard for your son, right?
And he's also very young, so it is tough. But he hasn't grasped it all yet.
My question to you is, he's going to be, as he gets older, he's going to realize his dad is not there, right? But how are you mentally managing that? Because, he doesn't see you every weekend or every day, so it has to be hard for him. And I know it has to be hard for you as a father. And so how are you sort of managing yourself and managing your impact to him?
Okay, you got it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna tell everyone that black men should do therapy. I am a product of that. It's not a pride thing. Hey, I have emotions, I have feelings, and I care for my son, and I love my son, and I hate the fact that he's not with me 110% of the time like how my dad was. So there's no way for me to actually mentally prepare for that conversation. I'm just going through therapy to be able to be like, I'm just going through it. It's an emotional thing for me, as you can probably tell. But my dad was in my life every single step of the way, 16-year-old father. And he raised me, and he raised multiple children that also didn't have dads or didn't have parents in general. And so to be in this position that I am now, it's tough. But I understand that I have the best example in the world. In order to help my son, I have to be powerful. I have to be strong. I got to be able to get through this and be able to help him the best way possible. Right now, for me, that's therapy. That's me talking to someone and letting all my emotions flow up and be able to, be strong and be there for him through FaceTime right now, through phone calls, through driving up here, through flying up here, for using this platform that I'm there right now to get to him closer. I've done a lot of different things to be in his life, to do every single thing that I can possibly. Now, to be mentally prepared, there's no mental preparation for that. It's just kind of doing every single day, doing something to help him.
But you know what he'll walk away with? And this is what I tell people who struggle with that situation.
Yeah.
As he gets older, he will see what you did. There are fathers who are in their children's lives every single day that ain't shit. Come on. Right? So, it isn't, yes, I agree. If you could be there every single day, kiss them goodnight every single night, that whole nine, that would be great. That's not the existence.
Right.
So the existence is to do exactly what you're doing. I'm going to make the best possible life for you and me that I can until the circumstance and situation changes. And if he sees that, trust me, he's going to see what a man is about. Come on. So you just keep doing it.
First, I want to say thank you guys for at least coming up here and sharing your story. I have a couple of things I want to ask. Nathan, I love your, Sheldon, I love your passion. I saw you in the gym this morning, working out hard. My question is, I'm a 45-year-old father of 3 kids. And I'm single. And so I have a 3-year-old. And I'm fortunate to live in the same city where my 3-year-old's, his mother and I live in the same city. So we co-parent. It's a little, sometimes it's difficult because you know how it can be sometimes. What advice, another thing I want to say, I own several barbershops, so I mentor a lot of kids, and what I've learned is that when I'm speaking to kids, I can tell them my story, but oftentimes they don't care how much I know until they know how much I care. Right. And so when I explain to them how much I care, but the narrative to talk to younger people who don't have that same type of relationship with their son's mom, what kind of advice can you give to someone young who is going through a situation where, you know, sometimes there's obstacles, like you guys say, they'll say like, well, she's not letting me see the kid, you know, all these excuses that we make. I'm 45, so I own my own business. I'm able to do certain things that someone else who works a regular job may not be able to do. But what kind of advice can you give to a younger individual who's going to face these obstacles when they get per se, a baby mama, and they're going to face all these other excuses that are talking about? What kind of?
Let's stop saying that.
I know, that's
I hate that.
Mother of my child. What's the other word?
I feel you now. That's just heavy.
I don't like saying either, but what kind of advice can you give to a younger guy who's going to face those obstacles?
It's what Brother Gordon just finished saying a few minutes ago, which is, you know, I had a young brother in my program, and he's like, Sheldon, my daughter 3, and she don't know me. When I get her, she cries. I get over there to pick up, she just started crying. Man, I'm just gonna have another baby. So my advice to him was, how many more years on earth she gotta live? 97 more years. It's never too late. The late part is you never come. That's the late part. And so my advice to a young brother who's struggling with the mother of his child is to continue to build on that relationship. I don't think it's an excuse for a man to say, man, she's keeping a baby from me. Okay, if you go over there and you start any problems, you're gonna call the police on you, you're gonna get a felony in your background. So you gotta play caution too as well in the midst of that situation.
You also need to know, though, that she has no fuller right, unless you've been abusive or something, to that child than you do. I laugh often when women say, well, that's my baby. Well, no, you had the baby, but that's our baby. And we have to start to learn legally, too, what our rights are, because too many of us, go, shit, I take the kid, I can't go to the club. So I don't look as bad if I say it to you in the public.
Right.
Oh, she won't let me see the baby. Right. To your point, have you tried to see the baby?
Right, but I would say legally. Let's talk legal, because we do something called felony street law. And so legally, it's the mama baby, daddy's baby. And so what a lot of fathers...
I can prove.
Right. So
that's
my child. Right. And so, but a lot of states, like Wisconsin, make you test right away when you have a baby. But most states don't. And so in that, you have to file for paternity unless you're married, right? You have to physically file for paternity as the father of this child to have those same rights in order to just walk in and be able to do what it is that you need to do. Now, the brother that's making an excuse about the club, he gonna be who he is, right? But the brother who really saying, man, how can I get my baby? You know, what do I need to do in order to do it? The thing that you have to remember that he said that I'll always remember as a kid is how hard my father or mother fought for me. And so as long as you continue to fight for your, as long as you continue that fight, they're gonna always say my father, my daddy went to the end of earth for me. And that's the type of attitude I think you have to have in that type of situation. Continuing to go to the end of earth, because when you get older as a man, you start to understand, that's why I forgave my father, what fatherhood and parenting really is.
And I'll say this really quickly, and we talked about Eddie Levert last night so much, but Gamble and Huff had a song, Family Reunion, and it talked about the roles of everyone in the family. And again, these are antiquated roles to some degree, but the song says the father's the head of the family, blah, 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 blah. But again, as men, we still want to fulfill our sense of manhood too. My wife will tell you, I make a lot of mistakes, but she will tell you, my family, she knows, our children know it, ain't nobody coming and messing with us. Ain't nobody gonna have to do anything for our household that I can't, because I modeled myself after men I watched. But I had that model, I was fortunate. And that's why it's so important for us to make sure that we also model for the cats that are checking us out, who don't have fathers. I see a couple more hands, we're getting close. I just want to do one thing before we take these other questions. For those of you who would not mind doing this personally, is there anyone here that does not have and did not have their father in their life? If you wouldn't mind, could we hear from just a couple of you and share with us, you know, your thoughts of what you're hearing? Just a couple of you, if that's good.
Hi, I'm Miles Davis. So I didn't have my father. I believe my father probably still alive when he's from probably more than that, probably 5 to 7 years. And I think the most part that I battled with at 28 years old was time. You know, I'm also a father myself, a 5-year-old, and I've been there since day one. And I think I battled with time and resentment and love. The love of my child makes me resent my father more, which is extremely confusing at times. I think I battle with it because there's no way that I can, you know, confront it.
Is he still alive?
Yes, he's still alive. But it's more of a fear of asking why. You know what I'm saying? Why is it never? And, you know,
Have you tried to do that?
I did when I was 15. I 15, I went and I gave him not being there, you know, and I had some level of relationship. But having my child, loving my child, brought back a lot of resentment because I felt it's so easy to be a father and be there for your child, your son, your daughter, and then you just ask yourself, why would you be there for me?
Let's get a couple more of those, and then please remind me, I want to share something along what you said before we leave. I just want to share a quick nugget to take away with you.
Good afternoon. To my brother's statement over here, you know, sometimes I find that either we're going to repeat the cycle or delete the cycle. And one thing that came to mind when you made your statement is, did your father have his father? Right. And was he doing what was done to him? Or was he not strong enough to overcome what was done? So sometimes I find that instead of holding a grudge, it's better to see people hold a conversation. And through that conversation, we could potentially ascertain understanding, which would give us the propensity or the opportunity to develop that relationship and be able to move forward with love versus with pain.
Can you get this gentleman on the end here? He moved out. He wanted to say that. The white shirt here. The white shirt here. And I will tell you guys, we are up against it.
I'm gonna keep my ass kind of fast.
Yes, you are.
Like Deontay, I just wanted to say that the absence of my father had a big toll, but that same absence made me want to be a better person. That absence, I thank God every day for the mother that I got. She played a big factor, a big factor. She made me not have my father, made me want to go harder because I saw that as a person that honestly helped me. And I said, like, community played a big part. That absence, I didn't have a father. So I went to the streets. I wanted to do things because I'm like a lot of people feel, mother can't teach you. the things that a father can teach you. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I went to the streets and I did that. And the more I learned, the more I did, I'm like, okay, that's not nothing. I'm repeating the same cycle that my father did. Yeah, I didn't know him, but I know he had a jail record. I had uncles that grew up in the jail system. So I'm just like, do I want to repeat that cycle and show my little brothers that? Or did I want to do something better? And I thank my mother for being that person to show me, like, yeah, there's something better out there. You got to do it, but it starts with you and knowing that it's better. So she showed me and didn't just tell me that.
So let me do this. Thank you all for sharing. Let's give them a round of applause. Alfred Edmonds from Black Enterprise is here, and he helps put all of these sessions together. And so I'm going to say that we need to look at an hour and a half for something like this as we move these along. But let me just share with you all one thing. Because there were a number of you who said, you didn't have your fathers in your lives. Jamie Foxx is a buddy of mine, and he said this to me. He said, Ed, you know what I didn't understand like you? He said, my father was 10 minutes away from me. Here I was, all-state quarterback back in the day, a prodigy on the piano and musician, and he said, my father, 10 minutes away from me, started another family, and I did not understand why he couldn't love me. I was doing everything right. I was the kind of son that, in the movies you would be proud of. And then, here's what I would ask of you. For those of you who know where your fathers are, give it one more shot. Be man enough to reach out. Don't wait for him to be the man. Because the anger is eating you up. So give it one more shot. And here's the reality, y'all. Some of us, the lottery didn't play us right. You got a shitty parent. And that's what you got to live with sometimes. Come on. Right? The lottery doesn't always give you the parent that the movies and the book does. But at least if you give it a shot, you can say, hey, I missed the lottery. And it's not about you then. And you know it for sure. And your father, the role model, I told you I lost my father suddenly when I was 11. The man that was and is my mentor to this day, save being my blood father, gave me everything I needed for me becoming the man I became. So it may not be your biological father, but there are brothers out here who can help you. So just think about that. Think about this. Fellas, we appreciate you. We love you. Thank you.